commandeered most of this hour because I got behind on some big announcements. He understands that. He was stationed in the Middle East, terrorism expert. You know, he always poo-poos, oh, I'm no big deal as a Navy SEAL. They do a lot more today, which I know they have a lot more missions. But he's an author, a great researcher. And when I found out about him like 4 years ago, really smart people at the Pentagon who were patriots said, you don't know who Matt Bracken is? He really gets what's going on. Without us giving you a bunch of classified stuff, Matt doesn't need to know classified stuff. He really is dialed in from an intuitive level. You ought to have Matt on. So now he's a good friend. I want to invite him soon to come to Austin, Texas, and co-host with us here in studio, best-selling author of a whole bunch of different books. The website's Enemies, Foreign and Domestic. So, again, he joins us right now. Matt, there's so much to get into in the limited time we have in this segment and in one more here, but obviously the whole situation kicking off the Middle East, I don't like Iran. But Trump pulls out of the deal. Israel strikes that base south of Damascus. Now tit for tat. This could escalate very quickly. I like the peace deal with North Korea. And I get this as part of peace through strength. So I want to reserve judgment. I don't want to just jump on the president because he's been proven right time and time again. I think he's just pragmatically, like you and others have said, like a house is full of termites. He's going in and tearing out the bad parts. We can have somebody else come in and a nice finishing carpenter later. He's proven that, you know, he really knows what he's doing, or at least his advisors do. At the same time, though, where this whole thing's drifting doesn't look too good. I get before Obama did this bad Iran deal that there was already missiles firing back and forth and bombings every week, and so this is just kind of that deal but being broken goes back to the same. So I don't blame Trump for that. I just don't quite understand it. So what do you think as an expert on this from your own research?
Well, in the last year, there's been a pretty big realignment, or actually a really affirming of sort of a new Middle East alignment with Israel and the Sunnis plus the USA versus Iran and Iran's allies. Now, the Saudis and the Gulf states would like to run some gas pipelines from the south right through Syria up to Europe, and that would that would directly conflict with what the Iranians want and the Russians, which is a military route straight from Iran to the Mediterranean. And if you look at a map of Syria, it's like a wedge shape, and that's the southern corner of that wedge is right up against the Golan Heights. So Israel has an existential fear of being encircled by their greatest enemy, so that they won't have really any kind of warning time, like missiles flying from Iran proper. They're afraid of being massively attacked by Iranian forces that have massively infiltrated Syria under the cover of this civil war. Now, we're in Syria too, but we only have really a tripwire force. They don't do much action. They're other than being bait for big air attacks, like when the Russian mercenaries tried to attack some of our allies. We used the air forces as bait, and then used gunships and drones to kill a lot of Russian mercenaries. But we don't have anything like the forces that Iran is putting into Syria. For Israel, this is an existential threat. Now, Israel, diplomatically speaking, is a superpower. They have an immense amount of influence, it is safe to say. Some would say that they have too much influence. And like, for example, Pat Buchanan, I have a lot of respect for him. He wants us to just stay out of the deal completely. And essentially, if Iran is going to become a regional superpower, it's none of our business. So there are huge forces at work right now. I've been reading up on these strikes. It's not getting the kind of coverage. Maybe it's in the eclipse of the Korea news, but these are the biggest attacks. Some are saying since 2011. Some are saying the biggest attacks since Yom Kippur War. I mean, really big air raids targeting Iranian forces all over Syria. So this could very well be the first inning of an Iran-Israel war at a time when Israel thinks America and the Saudis will be solidly on their side, dragged into this war on the side of Israel. So they're attempting to leverage this historical moment to be able to fight Iran with full diplomatic backing of the Saudis and the USA.
That's right. You're absolutely. So here's the headline. The stars have aligned for an Israeli-Iran war. Israel knows that Iran is sworn to destroy it. and that they're only gaining in technological prowess. And so Israel now believes the time is ripe to move. So they preemptively, an hour after Trump withdrew from the deal, were obviously green-lighted by the White House to then hit this missile site. Iran has taken the bait and is now being sucked in. And I told listeners yesterday, and some poo-pooed it, but the reason you've seen almost no coverage day one and day two, now you're seeing some coverage of this war heating up, is that Trump is now exercising executive power during a civil emergency to direct the media not to cover it. And that's in all the executive orders that Obama has the kill switch, all that was put in. Trump has now inherited all that control, Matt Bracken. Because it's impossible. It's impossible. One rocket gets covered. It's the top story. This is all going on for over a day. There was only one Fox News story, 0 on CNN. Matt, we all know that means that the president, through the Pentagon, put out its feelers. What do you think?
And this is an area where false flags and preemptive war with the Israeli attack on the Liberty, which was sort of like a botched false flag attack, probably, although it's still extremely mysterious. But then we have the recent probable false flag gas attacks blamed on the Assad regime. So if the Israelis are saying that the Iranians fired into the Golan Heights, I wouldn't necessarily take that at face value. This is an area rife with false flags and preemptive attacks.
I was about to say, Trump pulled the funding for the white helmets last week, and even mainline German news and others have confirmed that no chemical attack happened.
Yeah. I don't know how much time we have in this segment, but I was watching Godfrey Bloom the last hour.
Yes.
And I really wanted to salute that man, and it just makes me very emotional to see him. He's like a stay behind in occupied Britannistan. These are the men that fought in Tobruk and El Alamein and Operation Market Garden, D-Day, and to see them reduced to vassals in their own nation, where it's an act of courage to wave a sword that was issued to him by the British Army, is now an act of defiance to say, in my own home, I will use this to defend myself against an attacker, is now considered antisocial behavior. And he is essentially daring the British government now to cut off his social media as a social. There's a term for a social bad guy law. I forget the term. Tommy Robinson's had it.
They're now saying 6 months in jail if you criticize Muslims.
Right, and any place where Islamic blasphemy laws become enforced, whether it's by Muslims or by a dhimmi country, a state full of quislings, anytime you see Islamic blasphemy laws enforced, Sharia is coming. First, they cut off your ability to criticize it, like in Sweden or Germany or Britain, and then you see out-and-out Islamic schools, with children yelling Allah Akbar.
They're making kids in England now wear burqas. And I used to hear people 20 years ago warn about this, how they were crazy. I didn't get it. Parliamentary-wise, where you got more than 10, 15 parties in these countries, if the Muslims are 10, 15%, they can then all vote as a group and then take over any election they want. That's why they've already checkmated most of Europe.
Right, and especially in urban core cities, which are the critical districts, as we know. Even going to, for example, French Revolution, it doesn't matter if 90% of France was against the Jacobins. Once they control Paris and the main cities, they can then fan out into the countryside with the guillotines, and that's how they'll extend Sharia.
And just like the Bolsheviks, for 2 years only had Moscow.
Right, and speaking of the Bolsheviks, when those soldiers came back from World War I with their Mosin Nagants and their swords, they were disarmed. And now a British Army veteran, it's an act of defiance to wave a sword on a video. And I salute his courage.
No, that's a good point. I mean, just for saying he'll defend himself, that's a hate crime.
Right, and now he's like basically thrown the gauntlet down at the nanny state to say, what are you going to do? Are you going to arrest a British veteran and take away his British Army sword? Is that what you're really going to do? It's amazing. And my last novel, of course, it took place, in Ireland and UK. It's made up of SAS veterans on a counter-jihad mission to rescue girls where their own government won't rescue them. So
was it the Red Cliffs of... Spot on. And I've been on air 23 years, and I read a lot of geopolitical stuff and knew what I was doing when I got on air. But I'm obviously a lot more informed now. Is that I'd hear all this about global caliphate and turn the Muslims loose, and Hitler had a plan, and Kalergi plan, and all of it. And I just couldn't believe that our own elites would be that suicidal or crazy. But now it's happening. So this is the one area that I've been 15 years behind the curve on. I'll admit it. Because I just cannot believe how crazy our elites are. Matt Bracken, can you speak to that? I mean, why would we take victory and success and technology and everything and then subserve to some Stone Age rotten, woman-abusing thing, and then have leftists lecture us how England invented slavery when England ended it and how horrible America is? It makes me sick. I don't even know. It's like a nightmare. It's a joke.
Yeah, the socialists and the Islamists, the Mohammedans, they both promote a totalitarian ideology that essentially turns an area into a serfdom. But it's great for the people on top. In Venezuela, for example, socialist serfdom, the Morales family, the Hugo Chavez family, they became fabulously wealthy. I think his sister is a billionaire, lives in Florida. So you can become wealthy by inventing something and creating a new product. That's difficult. You have to be smart, hardworking.
Or you just have a communist takeover.
Right. And so they sell serfdom as Marxism. And the dumber people are, the easier it is to sell. We're going to take it from the rich and give it to you. Yay. So the more low IQ third worlders they bring into a country, the better it is for those who want to turn the country into a socialist serfdom. And it's working. If I have a moment, I want to, the T-shirt promotions really made me think of this. I've been working on a little essay, and it's about a new concept I'd like to introduce called skylining. It's related to being in a coal mine canary, but it's much more than that. If you're a hunter or if you're a soldier, skylining is a bad thing. It means you don't want to walk on the ridge because your outline is visible against the sky. You're an easy target. But sometimes you have to skyline. I'll give you an example. If a fire base has been under attack, been sniped, mortared, rocketed, but it's dying down, a lot of the troops are just hiding in foxholes. They're staying in the bunker. They won't come out and do the work that's required. They won't get back to their mission. The old Sergeant Major, the old Godfrey Blooms, they have to stand up in sight of potential snipers as an example to their troops to be courageous.
Wasn't that what the Alamo was? Because, they say that Travis knew he was 80% chance going to die, but he had to make the example of the sacrifice to stir everybody up to have the victory.
But it's not just an intentional sacrifice. What I'm talking about, it's when you have to convey to your troops that the enemy would like us to just hide, that we have to have faith in our combat patrols and our counter snipers, that it is safe, that we can stand up and work by wearing an INFOWARS shirt, by tuning into INFOWARS, by talking.
We get out of the bullying. You're saying we break the bullying.
Right, because most people are timid. Most people are sheep.
Hold on. We've got another guest host coming up who always does an amazing job, but he'll be happy if you to finish this point, because this is central. So I instinctively get what you're saying. We have to wear the colors proud. We have to break the will of the bullies. We have to get out there and start the offensive, because there's a lot of folks that aren't cowards, but they're not leaders, and they're waiting for somebody to pull the pin on the hand grenade. People so scared of being attacked by mainstream media, being demonized. But if you go along with it, it creates total stagnation. It creates collapse of civilization. When you're being led by bad people, conformity is not good. When things are going well and society's open and you're unified overall, you still got a few, bad people, but that's their free will. then it's good to conform. I'm ready to conform. I want it to conform right now. Believe me, I don't enjoy going around, getting in all these fights. But at a gut level, I do enjoy it, at a spiritual level, because it's got to be done. And I remember years ago, I ended up having a few meetings with globalists and high-level folks, some of which I've been able to talk about because they weren't even private meetings. John Harmon heard one of the meetings with the head of the Kissinger group trying to get me to join him. And they would always say, don't you get it? We don't care you're out there. You're just scaring the public for us. And I thought, well, I don't think the public's a bunch of cowards, at least the people I'm looking for. I'm telling them how bad this is, because I think if I knew something bad was happening, I'd want to mobilize against it. Instead of fight or flight, it's just resistance mode. And so you were getting into skylining to finish up, Matt Bracken, former Navy SEAL bestselling author, about instead of hiding down, now is the time to be out in the open. That's what Trump has done, the ultimate skyliner, to say free market, America, family, free speech. They try to all demonize it like it's dirty, like it's bad, and throw everything they've got against it, but people instinctively know it's a fraud. And now as Trump has success and everything starts turning around like the sun coming up, they are going into total panic mode. So finish up with skylining and where you think they're going to strike next, that it becomes apparent their agenda is failing. Then Anthony Cumia, the head of Compound Media, is taking over.
Yeah, that's a great point. Trump is the ultimate skyliner. He's doing this as not only so that he can move the helm, the ship of state's wheel, but he is actually purposefully putting himself up as a big target, a strong man saying, don't be afraid. That's why they're throwing everything, including the kitchen sink, at him. They know if he succeeds, more will follow, more will rise. They want to beat him down, impeach him, make him fail, so that no other future billionaire or populist will rise up, because they know that all the guns will be aimed at them. And that's why shows like INFOWARS are so important. They're an example that you don't have to sell out to the networks. You don't have to sell out to some billionaire backers, that you can do it on your own. And just a suggestion, because I was never a big fan of sticking glue bumper stickers on a nice car. You can get a magnetic bumper sticker, same size. You put your bumper sticker on it. That way you can slap your INFOWARS bumper sticker on when you want it. But if you're afraid you're going to some place where your car is going to get vandalized,
that's smart,
because that's what they do, you can pull it off. But I mean, in general,
we should put out magnet-based ones where you can be tactical, put it on your car where 1,000 will see you on a road trip, 100 going to work, pull it off, slap it on, and then you're tactical. That's smart.
Yeah, I bought a 3-pack. I just looked on the internet, and I got a 3-pack for a couple bucks, and they just are a big black vinyl magnet. You put any bumper sticker on there. Some I cut down, but that way, like you said, you go on a road trip, thousands of people will see your INFOWARS, the forbidden information.
By the way, that's the real victory mindset, is none of us are going to do it all alone. Every little bit executed, calling into C-SPAN, going and speaking at city council, going to a congressional meeting, going to the state house, talking to young people, handing out bumper stickers, supporting a broadcast. All of that moves the ball forward, and it's that will of the people.
Social media, retweet. I constantly see, 100 likes and 4 retweets. Are people afraid? I mean, if you're too timid to retweet a message today, a conservative, nationalist message today,
you're not going to fight tomorrow.
It's going to be easier later.
Yeah. Last thing people don't get, because I'm all about guns and I'm all about the Second Amendment, but the first comes first. It's always, well, the UN comes, I'll kill them. It won't be the UN. It'll be UN brainwashed police. If you won't fight in the info war today, you will not fight when the real time comes, and we don't want to go there. And it's not that I'm even afraid of going there. Man, it'd be a lot easier at an animal level. I mean, everybody knows killing's like eating or sitting on the toilet. I mean, it's just like part of a bodily function. We're trying to do the real intellectual work here, and that's the one final thing the globalists don't get, is they think we're intimidated by them. We're just scared of, once we get violent, the collateral damage and not executing it correctly. But I think if it goes to the next level, these people are all going to be in deep trouble.
That's right. But unfortunately, it might take, it might send us into a period of terrible anarchy and destruction that will, not help anybody. But we do need to stop being so polite. We need to take off the gloves, realize
that's it. If we don't get tough and get aggressive in the information war, we're ensuring the physical war.
Right. People need to understand socialists and Islamists both believe in strategic deception. They lie. It's part of their code is to lie to the non-believers, to the suckers. So you can't be polite and take them at face value. When the imam comes to town and says, I'm a moderate Muslim, dig in, find out where he's really been, find out what he says in Arabic, because they use strategic
And that's the good news is us being aggressive has forced them out in the open to really show who they are, and that's Trump's genius as a Skyliner. Matt Bracken, enemiesforeigndomestic.com, all your great books there. Thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you.
Now, joining us is Anthony Cumia of compoundmedia.com. Everybody